Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida, and today we are discussing shadow dancers, bug spray, Kelvin temperatures, blending stage lighting with projections, and the 2021 Grammy Awards Show, all on Light Talk.
And this is David coming to you from the beautiful Belmont Shore neighborhood of Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. Welcome to episode 207. And, well, we have a lot of news today. And actually, this is our big Grammy Awards review show. We actually saw the Grammy Awards this year, and it was, I don't know about you all, but I thought it was really fabulous. Some of the, in all aspects. We'll talk more about it during our Let's Talk About segment.
You're just a sucker for a Hammond organ.
Yes, and there were several Hammond B3s on stage, I want everyone to know, and I really enjoyed that, of course. And I liked it all. I mean, I just thought it was fabulous and huge year for women. Huge year for women. And it's about time. And this year, what a talented group. So I was very excited about that as well. So a little bit of news here. The New York Times came out with an article about summer theaters opening around the country, and all of them are outside. So what do you guys think about that?
I posted the article. I read the article. I think it's great.
Obviously, everyone's feeling very confident and very optimistic about opening up shows. I know Central City, they went ahead and they announced their season, and that's going to be outdoors in the park on a hillside with a stage. And they normally have rock concerts out there in this place. It's actually going to be in Littleton, which is a suburb of Denver. But it looks really great. Glimmerglass is doing their season outside. They have a beautiful stage that they designed. So that's pretty cool. The New York Shakespeare Festival, they're planning on doing their shows back in Central Park.
Central City, will they be serving like deep fried turkey legs and beer?
No.
We do that at Dallas Shakespeare Festival. We got your turkey. We got turkey legs. We got beer. We got nachos. You can't watch Othello without a nacho in your hand.
Other news, now that the Lumenoids are a TikTok sensation, the musicians are coming out of the woodwork.
Out of the TikTok, you mean?
We may have a new member of the Lumenoids. I will not tell you his name.
Does he have an agent?
But he plays a harp.
He plays a harp. No, he doesn't play a harp. But he's presently laying down some tracks. So what people will do to get on our world tour.
They want to go to those Faroe Islands. That's the deal.
I still get a top bunk.
Yes, on the ship. Yeah, because we're going to be on a freighter. I don't know, no matter what Stan says about being on this private jet, it ain't going to happen. We're going to be on a freighter.
Working our way to the Faroe Islands.
ETC is going to transport us in some kind of fancy way.
Oh, ZTC sponsoring this? I didn't know that.
Didn't you hear that?
No.
Yes. ETC and High End are sponsoring the Lumenoids to the Faroe Islands.
ETC has a band. I see them pop up every now and then. There's some ETC guys, some high-end guys. They do a little rock and roll.
That's right. My buddy Rob Roth plays guitar. He's down in Orlando. We got some other people in some other divisions of ETC that play. So,
Also, the UCLA marching band wants to play with us. Just like
they're going to bring Fleetwood Mac along.
Too many people. All right, enough of that. Let's get on to the show. Steve has our first question.
Russell in West Virginia asks, what is the best way to cast a dancer's shadow on the psych? Would you use a Lico or a Fresnel? Well, it's funny you ask, because that's generally the problem. There's dancers' shadows everywhere. They're on the legs, they're on the psych, So it's usually not a problem. But if I were going to do this, either one's going to work.
Intentionally, artistically, yes. It's an artistic decision to throw someone's shadow up on the site.
Yeah, I mean, a Lico or a Fresnel is going to work. It depends on the type of shadow you want. It depends on where you can place the light. Footlights, throw a nice little shadow. Maybe you have a dancer with a handheld light that can throw a shadow. The thing I would avoid is a soft light. I would probably avoid like a scoop or a true soft light or something like that. You need something that's got a little bit of bite to it. You might even try a light and experiment with color and gobo, but putting a shadow on another dancer or on a psych is not that hard. You just have to go out and place the light in the wings or behind the cyclorama or down in the orchestra pit and experiment with it.
Yeah, I think it's also a lot about where you place that light and what kind of shadow you're looking for. Are you looking for something realistic that is in proportion to the size of the dancer's body? Or are you looking for something big and eerie? You're looking for something distorted? In terms of the Fresnel or the Lico, do you want a hard edge thing? Do you want a wash that'll throw it everywhere? And the shadow edges are soft rather than hard? So I think there's a lot of ways to do it. I think you should get out there and experiment, grab some lights, grab some people, and do a little shadow play and see what you're looking for. I don't know if there's a best way. I think there's like a lot of different ways, like Steve said. Sometimes it's accidental. I think what you do want to do is really be intentional about your choice and think it through. Why do you want to do it? What are you doing it for? What is the effect you're looking for? How do you want the audience to respond to it? But I think generally the Fresnel is going to be all over the place, but you could spot it down and do all kinds of. There's a lot to be done with shadow play. But with the Fresnel, you want to pull the lens from it.
Right. That's what I was going to say. You need a single source. That's the Pilobolus way of doing shadows. And Pilobolus did a lot of shadow work on the back of their Psychs. And they usually used either a Fresnel with no lens in it, and you just flood it out all the way so that single source is all the way to the front.
That's true. Can I one reference that Russell in West Virginia might want to look at? I think some of the experts on light and shadow that are not theatrical people per se, it's sort of primitive, but they really have mastered the art form, is look at Javanese shadow puppetry, which is something that I studied in grad school. So Wayang Kulit and forms like that, just look at how they use it. A very, very simple, elemental in a lot of ways, but quite fantastic. And if you like Julie Taymor's work, that's what she was inspired by because she spent some time in Southeast Asia. So I would look at shadow puppetry to really get your inspirational juices going.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you all a little trick that I did many, many years ago, where I wanted the shadow to be on the Psych from behind. So it was like a silhouette thing going on. And instead of a light, I used a torch. Mm-hmm. And by using a flame, the shadows are moving constantly. So that's a pretty cool thing to do if you have a really good RP screen. And that's also the other thing. If you're doing it from the back, make sure you use an RP screen. From the front, it doesn't matter that much. But again, from the front, I'll just use whatever sometimes even a one element LED will work as well. I did The Perfect American here in Long Beach and in Chicago. And at the end of the show, Walt Disney in his hospital room builds this model of the Magic Kingdom out of pill bottles and tissue boxes. And then he takes a light, like a hospital light, that actually was an LED, and he projects the shadow of the Magic Kingdom behind him, which was really fabulous. So you can use a lot of different devices to do this. Just make sure it's single source.
If you don't have an RP screen and you're not trying to do something, full stage, you can always get yourself a king-size sheet and coat the back of that sheet with baby oil and turn that into an RP screen.
Ooh, I didn't know this.
Oh, it works really well. That back in the old days, the ticket with using something like that, if you're doing Glass Menagerie and you want a shadow of Tom, the ticket is to put something at the bottom of the frame, like a little teeny tiny gutter, because eventually the baby oil will migrate to the bottom of the screen. It's not going to migrate in a day, but over 3 or 4 days, it will start dripping on the floor. But yeah, baby oil.
But do you get stains? Do you get liquid stains and stuff like that happening on the material?
Looks fantastic.
Wow, I'm going to have to
You
try
just
that.
do a
That's
very
really
light
cool.
coat on the back of it, brush it in, and it's amazing.
Well, Chris in Utah writes, I'm learning how to light for the camera. How do various Kelvin temperatures affect black and white video? Wow. I never thought about that. That's a really intriguing question. So I had to look it up because I had no idea. Apparently, if you light your scene in various color temperatures and photograph in color and then convert to black and white, the luminance values of the colors translate to the image and you get a completely different histogram. And you can control it really sort of in ways that you couldn't have had you not done that. So yes, apparently the color temperature choices when shooting for the camera and then being photographed in color, the color information gets transferred. So you do have to shoot in color mode, right? And ideally in RAW format. And then when converting, you'll have more control over the contrast ratios in your image. And I saw some really interesting photographs of work that a gentleman did to explain this phenomenon. I only found one article on the subject, and maybe I'll post it for our listeners, but I had no idea that it would translate in that way. And apparently, such how much I know about digital photography and color temperature and all that. So apparently it does make a difference. And it's very interesting.
You're talking about is the information captured by the camera, and can you manipulate it? And if the information is in there in correct proportions, you can manipulate that. So I hadn't thought about that. We would look at things, and we would switch back and forth between black and white and color on our monitors just to look at contrast values. So I hadn't thought about that, but if the information's there, I don't see why it wouldn't work. If I'm shooting something, whether it's color or black and white, I'm kind of making choices. Not only me, but a lot of people are making choices before we start shooting. And if we choose to do something in black and white, I think it's a decision to keep color from being a distraction to the image that we're capturing, right? Color is a distraction. I think also if we're shooting in black and white, we see light differently than
I agree.
What we're seeing if it's in color. So I've never thought about doing it that way around.
I don't think anybody did here either. It was a result of a circumstance. I think it came from the fact that due to the circumstances of this particular case, there were extreme limitations in different locations and different sites and such that consistency was becoming problematic.
Getting back to that idea of color as a distraction, if I go kind of in a little weird tangent and bring us back, so many of the dances I've done over the years as a lighting designer, I've created the work before the music has been added. It's been scored into rehearsal or after rehearsal's over, but the music has been added into it. And the advantage of that, oddly enough, for me at least, is the music is not a distraction while I'm trying to light the piece. So I think, if you're doing something in black and white, what's interesting about it, again, color can be a real distraction, and we can get kind of seduced by the emotion of color rather than the emotion of what we're seeing on tape or film. The black and white, there's nothing getting in the way. You don't, you're just seeing the image, and there's no red blood flowing. There's just a dark liquid moving, and we bring everything to it. It is that kind of classic look that puts us in a certain time and place also, I think. If you go back and you look at Raymond Burr in...
Ironside?
No. Classic Raymond Burr. Pre-Godzilla. If you
in Rear Window. He was in Rear Window.
Well, if you look at him in Perry Mason, I mean, those were all shot in black and white for an artistic reason. And what's interesting is they did one episode in color. And when you watch that episode in color, you just kind of go, this isn't Perry Mason. This is not the world of Paul Drake and Della Street and Perry Mason. And you look at the costume colors, and the costumes really get in the way. Whereas those same costumes, when we see them in black and white, do not get in the way.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that they made an episode in color. But it's also that film noir type of feel.
Sure.
Any of those detective stories or crime stories, which was what Perry Mason was, for all intents and purposes.
Well, it started out as a radio show. Then you had the television show, and also the soap opera, The Edge of Night. That's based on Perry Mason.
And also, there was a new Perry Mason that was produced, I believe it was by HBO.
Fantastic.
A couple of years ago. I loved it. It was amazing. And that was when he was still a private detective. And then he became a lawyer at toward the end of that series. But I thought that was very well done and beautifully filmed. But that was in color. That was not in black and white. That was in color.
But it was certainly high contrast and edgy.
Yeah, very high contrast. It was great. Okay, Marielle from Paris writes, What are some techniques for blending the stage lighting with upstage projections?
Stay off the back wall.
This is a really good question, because one of the songs we're going to talk about today was that great Taylor Swift performance where she's standing on a roof, and it's of a hut, and behind her is a forest and a sky. And all that forest and the sky, if I'm pretty sure about this, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, was all projected. Right? And if you study that, you will see some of the techniques that you use to blend upstage projections into the downstage areas. There are several ways of doing that I've done. First is matching the color of the background or the projection with back and side light that wraps around the actor and projects on the deck with colors and movement from the video. And one of the ways that I do this, I mean, you could do this by mixing color, mixing LED and all that to match the colors that are happening. But you could also take projectors and light the actor and the floor with them using, similar content that is actually replicating the colors. But if you don't want that movement, you could just do it by matching the colors that are behind her with backlight. So that's one of the things that I do all the time. And I usually have several projectors overhead just to light the floor, mainly for this reason. Another thing you can do is to have a highly reflective floor downstage that will reflect the upstage projections into the downstage atmospheres.
Well, I'm going to agree with you, David. I mean, you can't think about it as two separate tasks. It has to be from day one. You have to work with the projection designer. And if you can achieve that color wrap around the performer, that fills in so much information for the audience. It makes it really easy. If you're fighting the projection all night long and thinking of it as just a piece of scenery upstage, you're just heading to heartbreak.
Absolutely. And that's why I like doing my own projections when I'm lighting a show. But when you work with a projection designer, make sure that you get a sample of the content so that you know what type of colors you're going to have to be matching to. Now, on the other hand, you can create contrast by changing the color a bit. And you can have that coming either from the back or from the front. For specific moments, you could make some extremely powerful moments by changing, having a contrasting color, backlighting the actor that's different from the color that's behind the actor. So you could do that as well when you want to pull them out. But if you want a realistic type of look, that's how you do it.
You are listening to Light Talk, and today, Light Talk is sponsored by
Love and Light Products. Are you suffering from ETS? Endless tour syndrome? That horrible feeling you get during those sleepless nights on that disgusting tour bus filled with smelly, snoring crew members traveling to the next venue in some godforsaken city? You're not only lonely, but increasingly paranoid about your partner at home, wondering what they may be doing while you're away? Well, those frustrating nights are over. Love and Light Products has the answer for you and your partner. It's time for the both of you to experience a pleasurable evening of Lumerotica. Developed deep in the jungles of Madagascar, Lumerotica combines the ancient practice of self-fulfillment applied with the efficiency of modern technology. Since we're concerned about both of you, Lumerotica comes in customizable sets of devices for his and hers, she and her, he and his, or for our non-binary friends, they and them. And to make sure that you and your partner are mutually content, Lumerotica's patented Wi-Fi chip, embedded in all our devices, ensures constant and instantaneous communication between you and your partner. For those long, dark bus rides, all our nocturnal relaxation devices glow in the dark. For instance, our ultraviolet LED crescent wrench is always ready to play. If alternative pleasures are your fancy, our Benoit beams will keep you on the edge of focus all day, guaranteeing a restful, stress-free evening. Or try our Luminizer toxic glue gun, guaranteed to put you and your partner to sleep in under a minute. And all our devices are rechargeable. Just plug them into the USB port of your solar-powered garden gnome and voila! another non-interrupted night of heavenly bliss. So stop stressing out over those long tours. Set your mind at ease, experiencing true contentment and love with Lumerotica. Because after a very long day in the theater, sometimes you just need to knock yourself out.
Do you think there's a market for this?
Yes.
I just want to point out that after 36 years of marriage, I will be in Paris or I will be in Berlin, and I will call my wife. And what I hear is, do you know what time it is here? What is it? What do you want? Well, call me later. Click. It's 2:00 here. It's 2 a.m.
Well, I don't know if this would have saved my marriage, because my wife, whenever she'd get mad at me, she'd look at me and say, "When are you leaving town again?" So I really think she enjoyed being.
I think this is for the honeymoon period, the first 7 days of your marriage. And then after that, it's like, what? I'm driving home right now. I'll call you later. Click.
But I think this could have saved all that. I mean, it's this wonderful connection that you have with your partner. And it's keeping that when you're stressing on the road.
I think we need something I think Alexa needs to be involved in this, or Siri. I think there needs to be some programmable responses and comments on those phone calls.
Okay, so listen, I got to give credit to that wonderful voiceover actor. That's Lori Cooper. She's a professional voiceover actor here in Los Angeles. And I think we got to thank her. So fabulous work, Lori. Thank you so much.
And now, back to Light Talk.
Well, the sound of those crazy ducks tells us that once again, it's time for another installment of Let's Talk About. And today's Let's Talk About is all about our 2021 Grammy show review. Yay! Wow. So as we talked about earlier in the show, the Grammys was this past week, and I must tell you, I was pretty blown away. It was really, really great. Just fabulous work. What do you guys think, just generally speaking?
Generally speaking, the opposite of how I felt about the Super Bowl.
Okay, in what way?
I just thought it was beautiful. I have not watched the Grammys in a long time. For me, it used to be a must-see because I love to see the lighting. I love to hear the music. Lately, it's I've gotten too busy, so it was nice to be able to get back to it, see it on my new OLED, which was phenomenal. And I thought the approach in the COVID times of having all these separate stages like medieval mansions, I thought the lighting was beautiful, just stunning, just like moment after moment. It was thoughtful, creative. I just thought it was rich, and I just delved right into it, like diving into a bucket of honey. I loved the whole thing. I thought it was beautiful. I really, really enjoyed it very much.
Just a shout out and to give credit where credit's due. Ben Winston was the executive producer on the show. The lighting designer was the fabulous Noah Mitz, you've seen his work on many, many shows. I know he's done America Got Talent. He did the Grammys last year, I'm pretty sure. He does a lot of award shows and some of the best lighting work I have seen on television, period. And the production designer is Misty Buckley. And I think the production design itself deserves an incredible amount of credit. I must tell you, it's one of the best production designs I have seen on an award show, if not the best production designs.
I want to add one little thing. It was spectacular, but it was spectacular with panache and finesse and taste. And I loved that.
Well, I was looking at the article that you posted from Rolling Stone. And, I'm going to take the showrunner, I'm going to take Winston at his word. And he says the artists were heavily involved with the design team to produce this. I think the other thing that gave this an edge over past Grammys is that they didn't have to worry about a studio audience.
Yeah, for
right.
Sure.
It was a totally different feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And they could take time to set something up and then time to get it out of the way and put something else in. And that one point of view, the camera's point of view, and they did that really well. I think this is, it felt like the most film-like award show I've ever seen. I think they really pushed how far they could go into darkness with the cameras.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that Ben Winston was talking about, like he wanted it to feel like the Abbey Road sessions. Like you take a camera into the Abbey Road sessions, and so that you're seeing what's happening that close up and that intimate. And then the lighting was just fabulous. And again, there was a style to every single number.
Absolutely.
And a production design style as well. Everything looked unique.
I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Then it dawned on me what it felt like. And then I read the article and went, okay, I guess I am on the right way. Winston says he was influenced by Jools Holland. And if you've ever watched Later with Jools Holland, it's a huge studio. And they usually have 4 or 5 bands, and the other bands are watching those bands perform. And there's kind of an audience as backdrop. And that's kind of what it felt like. And then, if I quote him here, he says, it's going to be a bespoke night of music that I don't know will ever be able to repeat.
Well, just for the record, not all of it was live. A lot of it was live, but some of it was pre-taped because even with 5 stages, and that's what they had like this big sort of sound stage. They had 5 stages around it with all the artists. This is what I loved. All the artists would stay there and listen to each other. And they would shoot the artist digging into the music of someone else. I thought that was just fantastic. But even with those stages, they did have to do some setup times. I know that piece that was done at the end, that incredible Black Lives Matter piece, was also shot just outside right in front of Staples Center. It's just an amazing, amazing show. But let's talk a little bit about the design approach and lighting. Incredibly bold lighting, very theatrical, super high contrast, strong angles and colors, a wide variety of dynamic movement. It was always happening there, and you felt that. And, it's a good question of how much was coming from Noah and how much was coming from the creative team of the band. All I can tell you is it was successful. However it was, it worked really, really, really well.
I thought Haim was incredible.
Yeah, because it was so raw.
Long shadows, aggressive lighting.
They were surrounded by those LED fixtures on the floor.
Yeah, I think we look at things like that and go, oh, that was really simple. There's not much to it. And that's exactly, I think, we just posted that photograph of Gene Rosenthal who said, success is being unnoticed. And boy, I mean, that just surrounded them and enveloped them and moved the story of that song forward. I have to say, I think that was one of my favorites of the evening.
It was a great performance.
I didn't mind seeing Trevor Noah watching it. It was the whole thing.
Everybody was watching it, Stan. It was great. I mean, Billie Eilish and her brother were watching it.
A sense of community. Yeah, it was really cool.
And a sense of artistic sharing was just really, really positive.
Well, at the heart of it, that's what Jools Holland does every week. You watch all these bands react to each other. You watch him react to it. It's you're just in a big room performing for each other.
And we should also talk about the set that was on top of the convention center where they presented the awards. They had all that greenery and it wasn't flashy. It was just well lit. And that was just the perfect way of doing it. You could see the people in the audience. They were in a big audience, just some tables. But it was just really beautifully lit because you could see everything clearly, which you really need to see during that moment. And then you'd go into a production number and you have all this bold lighting going on.
It's a great contrast, yeah.
I mean, just look at that Bruno Mars thing. Really nice throwback look. Best use of a shimmy curtain all night long.
Shimmy curtain, that was all projections.
Well, the when they did the Little Richard thing, the tribute to Little Richard.
Oh, the Little Richard thing you're talking about. Oh, yeah.
That was beautiful.
I was talking about the Silk Sonic.
I started with Leave the Door Open, then I jumped to Little Richie.
Yeah, Leave the Door Open was fantastic because it had such style to the lighting. It was just the spots that were on those guys. It was very Motown looking, very soulful. And then they had probably the best star projections I've ever seen in my life. But let's start from the beginning. Harry Styles started off with Watermelon Sugar. There was this great tunnel feeling of the lighting background. And there was this incredible back uplight on the Rhodes player. And I knew right then from the very first number that this was going to be lighting that I enjoyed because it was bold and you didn't have to see the face. It was the feeling. He was lighting the feeling of the song. And it was just brilliant. And then we go to Billie Eilish, which I loved. I just loved the whole design of that set. That was the one with the half-sunken car and all that great green, bluish lighting.
That's right. The next time your theater teacher tells you green is not a good choice, just pull that video up on YouTube.
Yes, pull the video up. As a matter of fact, I am going to post on our page all the links to all these videos so you could just have access to them immediately. But yeah, I just thought that was beautiful. And there weren't a lot of light cues. It was actually a very still feeling. And then we follow that with Haim's The Steps. And that had a lot of movement. Again, whoever did the programming for this show was brilliant because it had such contrast in musical styles and musical emotion. And I just think that those three women were just amazing. This incredible gold, amber, red look. Again, hey, here we go, Stan. The green-red theory. We were sitting in green for Billie Eilish for about 3 minutes, and now we're in like amber red.
So what does that do? Right. So now what does that do? That makes the red so much more potent.
That's so much more exciting, exactly. And then Bad Bunny and Jay Cortez doing the Dakiti, and that was the one with those vertical corridors of the LED posts.
Oh, I loved that. I don't even know that artist, and I should. My students are giving me a hard time.
Beautiful
music. But it was beautiful.
Yeah,
I just knocked my socks off.
Incredible. Again, production design, just kudos. Those LED posts were just beautiful. The way the camera would follow them in through the corridors, it felt just very immediate. It had this immediate feel. Then we went to maybe my favorite of the night was Dua Lipa's The Baby and Don't Start Now. And that was that huge dance number where you had that big light, it looked like a light box behind them of a moon, but it was all projection. And then they had the dancers through the lasers. They had those lasers that were at about, I don't know, maybe a foot off the floor, maybe a foot and a half, and with a lot of haze and smoke. And the way the dancers moved through the lasers was just beautiful. And at the very end of that song, as it built, the colors on the projection screen were so vibrant, reds and yellows. I mean, you're coming from this moonlight sort of feel into this like giant Aurora Borealis of Psychedelicide and LSD. It was crazy and worked perfectly with the music. And the dancing was fabulous. And then we went to something that I was not expecting, and that was the Taylor Swift medley.
Oh, why were you not expecting that? What caught you by surprise?
Well, the first thing you see is a close-up of her face. And this video is on our Light Talk Facebook group page. And that's all you see. And then as they're pulling back, you see that she's lying on some sort of thicket. And they pull back more, and then you see it's a roof of a hut, and you see this forest around her. And the hut is darkened. And it's, again, all this beautiful blue light and streaks coming through the trees, again, all projected, and brilliantly done, just brilliantly composed. And at the end of the first song, Cardigan, she leaves, it fades out on her, and the lights come on inside the hut. And it's this rich gold amber light, right? And the guy's playing piano. He finishes the piano, and he picks up the guitar, and then she comes in through the back door, and they sing the next song. And it was just such an incredible transition. And then as they pulled back, you got to see the whole picture of that beautifully lit hut surrounded by this magical forest. And at the very crescendo of the song, the end of the song, you see fire rings wrapping around the trees.
Well, she's not shy about trying something new and something different and exciting and staying relevant. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was a beautiful moment.
In an evening of incredible production design, to me, that was the highlight. And again, because it was very theatrical, but just it worked so well with the music and her music, and she was so great. The In Memoriam segment was so tasteful and beautiful, from Bruno Mars doing his Little Richard to Lionel Richie's tribute to Kenny Rogers. And I don't know if you do this, but Lionel Richie wrote that song for Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, that was a beautiful tribute.
And then at the very end of that, Brittany Howard singing You'll Never Walk Alone from Carousel, which I found out today, that arrangement is actually huge in Britain right now. So that is pretty cool. I had no idea. Then we had that big number by Megan Thee Stallion, which I kind of liked because it had a lot of balls to it. It really did. And then during the dance number, they had like these two dancers doing a tribute to the Nicholas brothers. Then you had Post Malone. The song is about a minute long, and he said something like, God bless auto-tune during the introduction. And I said, oh, there you go. A lot of low-hanging fog. And by that time, I was tired of seeing fog. I've seen enough smoke, okay? We don't need to see smoke anymore.
But, what happens with this piece is all of a sudden you've got this kind of weird operatic theater, sci-fi just pushing the limit of darkness on stage. And I would say to good effect. So I enjoyed it.
Then a highlight of the evening, Little Baby doing The Bigger Picture. And that was filmed in the streets of Los Angeles. Starts with a cop shooting a young unarmed man. They use flares and fire throughout it. But the whole atmosphere had this great, brutal HMI feel, like you'd see on the street. And it was a very powerful number. Doja Cat, Say No. That was the one with all the laser choreography, beautiful, incredible colors, great dynamic cueing.
It almost looked like an art installation piece.
It did. You're right, Steve.
I could go in MoMA and see that.
There's one thing that we didn't mention, and that was this beautiful decision to have a lot of the normal people who worked in a lot of shut down music venues, obviously due to the pandemic, to have them tell us a little bit about their lives and what they miss about the music scene. And they actually presented a lot of the nominees, and some of them announced the awards, which was beautiful too. But yeah, I don't know who came up with that idea, but that was absolutely brilliant. So I know that we skipped some acts, including one of my favorite bands, the Black Pumas, but we just didn't have enough time. So go and check it out. It's a great show. Well, Steve has our last question of the day.
Irene from Hampton Roads asks, now that it looks like we'll be designing a lot of outdoor theater this summer, what insecticides would you recommend to keep those nasty mosquitoes from eating us alive? I think the question here and the thing we have to explore are rectal thermometers.
What?
I think you heard me. Let's get down to attacking that mosquito on the biological level. So, your average person has a temperature of 98 degrees, but our friend the pig is 100 degrees. And a mosquito will always go for a pig before it will go for a person. So again, David can talk to you about his pet pig and his Tesla, but you have a pig. You have a little Porky with you when you're doing these outdoor gigs, and it'll be covered with mosquitoes. And don't worry about that, because Porky has a tough skin. Those mosquitoes cannot bore through it. So it is a frustration for them and a mild annoyance for Porky. So that's how you keep from being eaten alive by mosquitoes this summer.
And remember, BYOP, bring your own pig. Because everybody's going to be sitting next to you, and poor Porky's going to be covered. That white pig is turned into a black pig because all it's covered with mosquitoes, totally mosquitoes.
Maybe a bonus from all these COVID shots is they also will act as a mosquito repellent.
Oh.
We don't know yet. We don't know what the side effects are.
We will find out this summer. Always come with some sort of protection because there are a lot of mosquitoes there.
What you need is skin so soft.
Yes. But something, I've heard that you got to be careful about which Skin So Soft you buy, because apparently there's one that does not repel mosquitoes. So make sure, do your research on Skin So Soft.
I have to update that.
For only $200, you can get yourself a 1-acre flying mosquito trap. Just put it right beside you. Mosquitoes from an acre around will come to there. So you'll draw them all to you, but they'll go right inside and get zapped.
Yeah, the zapper.
Yeah.
Zapper's great.
Sharper edge. They'll hook you up. Stan's got a point. The number one mosquito repellent on Amazon is Avon Skin So Soft.
Well, at least I made one reasonable contribution today.
Is that it?
That's all I got, baby. I only get to do one show, and I earn my salary. You get one show.
I would think living in the swamps of Florida, you would know all about mosquito abatement.
There's a new one in Florida.
What's that?
It's a bad one.
Oh, really? A mosquito? Is he big?
Yeah, a new type of mosquito.
Oh, that's not it. You're going to have to whip out the DDT again. I'm telling you, go back to the 60s in Florida and get those DDT trucks. Completely fog everything with DDT and you'll be okay. Well, the rocking sounds of the Lumenoids tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on Spotify, iTunes, Google, YouTube, and just about every other podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org for future guests, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
If you should decide to litigate, we have a law firm called Fleck, Flock, Flare, and Glare, and they've got a paralegal snoot, and they will defend us until our retirement funds are completely depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, and the Republic of Texas.
And be sure to join us next week when we talk about more crazy happenings in our crazy industry.
All of that and a new sponsor.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Toodles.